Here we are, live, all together for once.
Yeah.
In mildly sunny Wales.
Sunny Wales.
Yeah. So I'm in Wales, and we're at a YEV residence house. But more to the point, we're here to talk about, is your EV being tracked? Because there's been some very interesting, quite scary information that's come into the news field recently. So I think we'll start with that, but there is quite a bit to get through. There's quite a lot that's going on in the car and EV space that we will talk about today. But let's start on this particular story. So the DFT, Department of Transport, spied on millions of EV owners via mobile phone data. Shock horror. The Department of Transport, under the previous Conservative government, ran a 2-year, £600,000 project using mobile phone data, anonymised, from 25 million O2 phones. Oh, thank goodness for that. Covering 35% of the UK market, including Tesco's Mobile, Giffgaff, Mobile, Virgin Mobile, etc. Okay, so there's a few more. How did they track the EV owners? That might be a question that you've got. So the phones were flagged as potential EV users if they visited EV-related websites or apps at least once a month in 2 or more months over the previous 3 years. What they tracked. So once they identified yourself as an EV owner, the government analysed every journey, speed, location, trip frequency, distances, overnight parking spots, and also where your EV was kept overnight, charging patterns, and more. So the data period was July-October 2023 to January-April 2024, 4 separate months in 3 English regions: London, Northwest, and East of England. And their goal with this spying was to understand EV uptake, geographical spread, and the real-world usage to evaluate charging infrastructure investments like the Levy Fund, which is a fund for councils where they've put in charging infrastructure in many, many locations. The full official report, this is the title, by the way, Exploration of Mobile Data for Evaluation of Electric Vehicle Usage, was quietly published late 2025, but only hit the headlines this week. So yeah, quietly published. I wonder why. Media headlines. So this is what some of the media headlines were saying. So the Telegraph said, electric car drivers spied on by the government through phones. GB News, millions of EV drivers spied on by state through mobile phones. Daily Mail, millions of electric car drivers spied on by government. And Electrifying the Sun, etc. Government spying on EV users through their phones. So even though the data was anonymised and aggregated, no individual names or exact addresses, critics, including Shadow Transport Secretary Richard Holden, MP, and EV experts, slammed it as nanny state, breach of trust, and a creepy digital profile of EV owners, especially with paper mile road tax, EVD, coming in 2028. So the important note in all of this, as the summary, this is a phone-based profiling, not the EV car itself sending data through. Modern EVs do have built-in telematics, as many people know, that manufacturers can access, but it still perfectly fits your EV is snitching, which is why we're here. And this is why we're talking today. And it will also open up many other things that we've got to speak about.
So with that data, does it say the date it was collected?
Yes. It was collected 2023, July, October, to 2024, January, April.
So it crossed 2 governments then, wouldn't it?
2023. When was it again? Was the end of it?
It said July, October 2023, and January, April 2024.
No, so just before.
Yeah, 4 separate months.
Yeah, just before.
So that means that the government that's criticised it as spying on people would have been the people who commissioned it. Because if it's Shadow...
Yeah.
So they're criticising something that they must have commissioned.
Yeah, but that's as soon as you have an election, these things don't matter. You can just completely disown anything that's going on. Yeah, a bit like the criticizing the ELOs when you're involved in setting it up, because it's now being managed by somebody who's on the opposite side of the chamber. These things do happen. Interesting though, isn't it? I mean, it's that kind of sense of profiling a group based on what is quite woolly data, really, isn't it? And actually you don't really necessarily know a huge amount about how they're actually using vehicles or what vehicles they're in by that data. But it's what you can gather from all of this. I mean, this is the thin end of the wedge. What else can you track with very, by knowing that somebody's using their phone to look at X, Y, or Z, you can start profiling people based on
anything,
mental state, or how often, what they buy from the supermarket, what comes up on their club card points and all the rest. You can do all sorts of profiling. It's quite scary because your phone and your car know you really, really, really well, theoretically, and your car knows everywhere you go, and your phone maybe knows even more than that.
Well, we make use of that all the time, because I know talking to people that when you're driving your sat nav, most people have connected sat nav that tells them where the traffic jams is. That data is crowdsourced from every phone, because I've talked to people who work on the highways data and stuff, because they've got loads of sensors on the motorway to do that. But companies like Google don't use that data because they've got even better data from all the mobile phones that can do in real time the speed changes, because they can tell when you're in congestion.
You see that project in the States, speaking of that, where the guy got a load of mobile phones and put them in a wheelbarrow and just walked up and down the same stretch of road to make it think that, like, Google Maps or similar, think that there was a traffic jam and everyone was moving at a walking pace down this road. But it's like, it just goes to show how much you actually give away just by kind of carrying this stuff around. And all of this stuff gets linked together, doesn't it? I mean, I've had instances where I've bought something and I've scanned a load of shopping through on a supermarket loyalty scheme, and then had adverts for certain products that I bought that particular week come up on my social media. It's all tied together.
Or you're talking about it in a conversation and it'll pop up straight away. But I think, you mentioned, it's data, privacy of data. And this is what, this is what government organizations, this is what businesses, this is what we all use now, isn't it? It's data. But how accurate is that data going into the funnel to give them the answer that they want? I would say that, based on the fact that it's lots of different types of electric vehicles, which might not give a clear picture of how best to utilize that data for what they want to understand EV charging infrastructure. I just don't like the fact that they've put it under the the radar, under the carpet, so to speak.
And it's again mixed messaging, because they want to promote EVs, and this just opens the floodgates for people to say it's an EV thing. But they could have done exactly the same, and we don't know. Have they commissioned similar studies on ICE vehicles? It's just they happen to have published the EV data.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And with phones, you can profile all sorts of things. You think about all these kind of things. They've got sleep trackers and trackers for all sorts. How many steps you're taking in a day, and your heart rate monitors and things on your phone. How much exercise you're getting. You can profile all sorts of things by knowing if connect the dots together and infer all sorts of things, which could be quite scary if you really sort of think about it. But I mean, obviously, all cars, I think it's 2017, all cars have had to have some sort of data connection built in, regardless of what's under the bonnet. Yeah. So there is the ability to do similar things in terms of knowing, potentially in terms of knowing where vehicles are and utilizing that data for who the hell knows what. But it's interesting to kind of, I'm sure there are other things that have happened that we don't know about. This one's just come out as it's fairly innocuous.
Yeah, and you're talking about the cars tracking that data. That data has been used a number of times to disprove when people have said their EV has abducted them, because every car, be it petrol, diesel, or electric, has a data logger in it. So if you have an accident and the police want to, they can pull the data from the ECU and look at throttle position and speed and everything from that, because it logs it.
The other thing very much on topic with this is starting to hear manufacturers saying now that they're utilizing data from connected cars. So most EVs have got some sort of app or whatever. They're utilizing this data to do things like develop better cell chemistry. They know where vehicles are stored, how often they're charged, how fast they're charged. You can really optimize the chemistry of the batteries and stuff to get that right, which is quite an interesting thing as well. I mean, there's obviously pros and cons. I mean, the access to data that we all have, including, you know, people being government, manufacturers in industry, this big data thing, this ability to crunch vast amounts of numbers and kind of deduce things is unprecedented, but it needs that kind of, how do you use it responsibly and not have, you know,
it's the trust thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if they're doing it for, I would say with our, you know, say so, and they're actually using that data for a positive thing, then yeah, fair enough. But if they're doing it without our say so, and it might not be for a positive thing, it's who polices that?
Well, I guess the difference with the manufacturer stuff is you'll be signing up to T's and C's, which obviously nobody reads, that says you're giving away all of this data. It was the Mozilla Foundation did a thing a couple of years ago, which I know a lot of the industry kind of rounded on, because it was all sorts of things about what was in the T's and C's, and it was, I think we've talked about this before, and the study was highlighting that certain manufacturers, you give away things like details of your menstrual cycle and your like mental health and all sorts of things through the app on your phone, and it can connect into all of those things. And it's just like, that's not something you want linked into your profile as a driver. There's all sorts of things that can come out of that that are really quite sensitive from a personal point of view. But reading it back to what I mean, there's no T's and C's on your phone that says that, you know, your data can be harvested to do this sort of thing with.
Start to go to a, you know, Nokia 5110 or a burner phone. I suppose, you know, like, would you want to have a week where you're using cash, you're not using any apps, and you've got a basic phone, and you know, live your normal life? Or would you like a smartphone with all the benefits it brings? You know, I'm pretty sure after a week of not having a mobile phone, I'll feel quite lost.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try it at some point maybe I should try it next week, actually. Let's get into the comments. Thanks everyone for popping in the comments there. So yeah, good evening, bonjour, as always, commuter branch line. I'm on the Ronald Dusher 29. I don't think that's your first comment. Thanks for joining us. I'm on O2 Mobile. They can track me all.
They can track me. It'll be very boring. The same for my EB6. Very boring. I'm sure we've been tracked for years with our phones. It's a bit like moaning about the Chinese spying on us in our EVs. Well, this is the thing. Is all this data can be. There's all sorts of people who can harvest this data, and if we're all looking up, it's the reason. The reason is we are just to break through the fourth wall. We have a bigger screen up here, which is showing the questions in a slightly more
larger font.
Larger font, kind of.
This is why I like
driving my varifocals in.
This is why I like driving a Tesla. You know, my data's safe, right?
Zoe says, not particularly concerned about this, more interested in the findings and how it's been useful to get, say, terrace and northwest or street charging, whatever they did with it. There is something in that as well. Why are they interested in EVs? At the time wanted to pare back the green policy. Yeah, it's also an interesting point. Data could be used to collect paper mile. Now, this is where things get really interesting. So, what have you been up to today, Tim?
What have I been up to today? I've been driving you to your garage to sort out alloys. So I've been driving my electric
renewing something.
Ah, yes, of course. Let's see where you're going there. So I've had to renew, like many EV owners, my road tax on both Teslas today, which was quite financially painful. So painful, I decided to go monthly. So it was £17 per month each Tesla. Signed up today, although maybe I should have done it yesterday. And I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling that pain. What about yourself, Kev?
Yeah, well, I've found that pain, and there's a bit more pain if you happen to lease your car.
Oh yeah,
because if you lease your car, HMRC are unable to separate the VAT element from your road tax. So if your road tax is 195, you also get charged VAT at 20% on that 195. So it actually is over 195, because there's no way for the HMRC to recognise a mechanism to extract the VAT from the taxation element, because they class it, because it's leased, the 195 is classed as a service charge, not your road tax.
Yeah, well, it comes in nicely, doesn't it, on the 1st of March. I'm sure literally every person with an electric vehicle had to go through that pain, unless they took advantage, or they didn't take advantage of the free tax. But yeah,
I think a lot of people did an early renewal last March. It was the 1st of April last year that the tax changes came in, flattened the rates across everything regardless of powertrain from 2017 onwards, excluding the excess charges for more expensive vehicles.
But if you think if you're a fleet that did that, there's the potential as a fleet that did that did save a lot of money, but now every March you suddenly potentially have a multiple £1,000 bill. Because the one thing that people have forgotten, cars are 195, but if you have an electric van, it's gone from £0 to £395. And say you had 10 vehicles on your fleet that happen to be electric vans, you've gone from £0 to 3,950 every March.
Or potentially you've taken them back and swapped them all for diesel ones.
Well, they still be 395 as well, so you're not going to win.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I mean, I'm looking at it the other way. I mean, I'm coming up to my renewal on the Polo, and the Polo I remember not so long ago being about 130, 140 quid. It's going to be 220 quid this time around. So I mean, all of these rates are all kind of linked to inflation, and the inflation over the last few years has been such that the prices have really rocketed up for everything. And so EVs are kind of jumping onto this system that's been massively inflated recently.
But there's good news. If you have a Dieselgate era car, you're still paying £20.
Yeah.
But it's not all bad news, because there has been the government grant that has been increased.
Yes.
So it's increased from £350 up to £500 if you don't have a driveway.
Yeah, so all of the schemes have been reduced, have been increased, which was kind of came out of the blue. I didn't see any warning about this at all. So the other day, my
inbox, money's coming from the road tax, isn't it?
They think, oh, we've got an influx of stuff. We've got to spend it on something. We had a load of emails come in from OZEV the other day, the Office of Zero Emission Vehicles, with all of the charging point grants. And the levels have all been 350 quid or either up to 350 quid or up to 75% of the installation costs and the equipment for charging points. And it's done on a per socket basis if you've got like workplace charging stuff. So if you're installing chargers for your fleet and you get one with two double-headed, like two socket ones, they get 2 grants, which is quite interesting. So it's on a per socket, not a per unit basis. And the fleet one's gone up as well. The home-based ones, there's a gap in the home-based ones. There's a very selected audience, as you were saying, about who can actually get those. And if you are like me, you're a homeowner in a single occupancy property, so a house or a bungalow, you don't get the grant unless you park on the street. Then you can get the grant, but only if you get permission from the council beforehand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the home charging grants are aimed at rental properties, flats, and you don't. There's an interesting kind of carve out for it. So they're trying to kind of target the slightly less simple, straightforward installations.
And you need the permission for the turbo charge to go across the pavement. And some councils, I can't remember the last number. I want to say it's getting up to sort of 30 to 70 councils out of about 350, but just to double check to see if your council allows it. If you go on the turbo charge website, I'm pretty sure they've got that functionality where you can pop in your postcode and tell you if your council is ready to go or whether they're in process. But again, if they're not ready to go, it's always worth sending an email or letter to your MP and move them forwards. So yeah, I mean, that is positive news, because I mean that is something that really does need some work, isn't it? Because
especially if you're from a fleet perspective, I mean, there's an awful lot of people struggling to kind of make the books work in terms of getting vans put on fleet. If you can set up a kind of a decent size depot charging system with that, then you're getting a good old chunk of change towards getting that infrastructure installed. It's probably worth doing it now, because those grants, I mean, for years it's always been, well, apply, because you can apply for you don't have to apply for all 40 of them at once. You can apply in chunks. So if you decide you wanted, say, 10 now, but you think, oh, I might another 20 in like a couple of years, you can do 10, then you can do 20, but you'll get whatever grant funding is available at that time. And so generally speaking, the people have sort of said, well, the funding levels are only going to go down, aren't they? I mean, and then they've gone up. So it's like 40-odd%, which is crazy. I mean, it's quite a nice thing to move on.
And this is where double-headed sockets are the real bonus for fleets, because it's per socket.
Yeah.
Why would you put anything other than a twin-headed one? And lots of those now have software in them, so technically they can be a 1 7 kilowatt charger or 2 3, or even to the extent you can have them all as 22 and it can do array charging.
Just a thought: if you have a home charger, which is a double, can the turbo charge take 2 leads?
Well, can the charge gully take 2 leads? Is it deep enough?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
Yeah,
don't think you get. It's not on a per socket basis in homes.
Damn it.
It's only the fleet one.
just throwing it out there.
I mean, and that is the question. How many people, well, yeah, this good question put out there, have more than one charge socket now at home? I mean, because you are getting 2 EV households. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have 2 chargers, but I'm guessing there needs to start being twin socketed home products that can load balance, because you might want to charge 2 cars at once.
And if you have got a product like that, then we want to hear from you, because I've got 2 electric cars and I could do with an upgraded charger. And my next door neighbour, they've got 2 EVs, and one down the road, literally a stone's throw away, got 2 EVs. There's plenty to go at in Highland Ferris, that's for sure. But there is also another positive thing to look at from EV perspective, which is, it's not been confirmed yet, is it? The VAT.
Yeah.
Which is not going to help just fleets, but also, you know, people that don't have chargers at home. But what detail do we know about that yet?
So, I mean, there's a lot of people probably know, if you charge in public at the moment, it's 20% VAT compared to 5% when you charge at home. I mean, but there is a recent case that has suggested that as long as you don't take more than 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, that is classed as domestic. So it's only subject to 5%. So this is the thing that we don't know whether, at the moment it looks a bit like it's a loophole that HMRC has missed. So it could end up that if they treat it as such, as a loophole, and they fill that in, a bit like with something similar with the pickup trucks, where the loophole was you treat them as a van even though they were 4 seats, and they have filled that loophole. So this is the thing: will they move quickly to fill that loophole in, or will they accept that, yeah, actually it should be 5%? And then how do you work that out? Because for most people, most normal domestic users, it's going to be very difficult to, you're not going to public charge more than 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. But then if you're a high mileage fleet user, how do they do that determination of where you switch between 5 and 20% VAT?
Mobile data?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all come around, doesn't it? Talking about pickups, I did see KGM got a new, who is it that's got a new electric pickup?
So Isuzu's got the full electric pickup, which is available for order now. That can pull 3.5 ton and the ton payload. So it qualifies fully as a pickup. I believe the KGM one has slightly lower payloads and less towing capacity. Similar to Toyota have announced theirs as well, and Toyota's has got a significantly lower towing capacity than their diesel version. I believe it's something like 1,700 kilos on the electric. And
worth stating here, the opportunity with this is that the big change with going from pickups being a van to being classed as a car is, if you get a pickup through work and you can use it for personal use. So in other words, if it's your company car, pickup trucks were great value if you needed basically a big SUV. If you could live with the fact that the ride quality of an unladen pickup truck is like something that Boudica would be proud of and nobody else, then
why would Boudica be proud of them?
Just thinking of the carts you used to ride on, like
okay.
suspensionless kind of,
Yeah.
like, because you've got to have a 1 ton payload to fall into that category, and therefore you end up with rock hard suspension if there's nothing in the back of it.
Yeah.
bit bouncy.
Yeah. I mean, they hop around all over.
It's going to be bouncy.
Getting better.
It's going to be bouncy anyway with the state that the roads are in.
Well,
right?
there is that, yeah. It'd be doubly bouncy when you're kind of clanging in and out the potholes. But the interesting thing with it is that by moving it to car-based, they all go CO2 based. So all of these pickup trucks have had massive increases in tax for a company car driver, and if you can bring in some kind of low emission or zero emission that tailpipe pickup truck, you'll actually you've got an opportunity to kind of corner that part of the market where you're giving these people, these trucks kind of job need users that want them, or if you're trying to get into the kind of lifestyle side of things as well, you've got an opportunity there to sell a pickup truck with significantly cheaper tax to company car drivers.
Yeah, and I've noticed as well the manufacturers have jumped on that, because I've got coming in a few weeks the Ford Ranger plug-in hybrid. But if you look at the model range now, it's only the plug-in hybrid that's on sale, and I think it's the V6 diesel, the 3 litre. So basically, they know that if you want that 3 litre diesel, you're going to buy it no matter what. And then for the more normal kind of everyday users, it's the plug-in hybrid, because the CO2 figures are quite low based on the way they work that out.
Be interesting to see how quickly that moves. I mean, I think there is very much a demand, isn't there, for pickups as a lifestyle vehicle anyway. So if you can do that in a way whereby, you know, you've got something that's a bit more tax efficient, I think you reopen up that kind of, I say, sort of like a market for lifestyle electric pickup trucks in the UK, which is interesting.
The problem you have is for those kind of people who need it for work, your national grids, your national parks, your local authorities for that, where if they take it home, because a lot of these jobs, you know, if you work for National Grid, you're going to be home based with your pickup truck. You've suddenly got a very expensive BIK bill that you didn't have before. They've got the grandfather rights on it at the moment, but those are going to go eventually.
They get sunsetted in what, 2028, something, 2027,
Yeah, or if on new orders. So if you bought a diesel pickup today, you're on the new rules.
Yes, yeah.
Well, you can get a Maxus, not that they're amazing, these pickups, and they're rear drive, not full drive, and there's not a huge payload, etc. 88 kilowatt hour battery, Maxus T90 EV for £13,000 now, which I would say is quite a lot of value, to be fair.
And if you go full lifestyle with them, if you don't need it to have a 1-ton pickup to be classed as a commercial vehicle anymore, if that makes no difference to it, just sell it as a car.
Yeah,
sell it as an electric car and don't have it as a commercial vehicle at all. It's just a pickup in name, in body style only. It's not with zero capability. It doesn't need to have that if it's being sold as a lifestyle vehicle. I'm not advocating that, but there's potentially a market for it. Wasn't the Ranger Raptor not technically a commercial vehicle? There's one below it, isn't it? The Thunder or something, where it looks like a Raptor, almost like a Raptor, but it's not. But it's got the 1-ton payload that the Raptor doesn't have.
Yeah. Do you remember the Raptor was initially launched with no? When they launched it initially, it was launched with no type approval for a tow bar on the Raptor, so it couldn't. It couldn't actually tow anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to think what the miles per gallon is pulling something fairly decent with something like that.
Well,
but...
I mean, from the diesel ones, I know from experience, you're looking at probably about 18 miles per gallon is not unusual on the diesel one if you're doing any work on it. So actually, that's one of the things that's quite funny. If you compare it to an EV, it's probably got less range on a full tank of diesel, except your full tank of diesel is probably over 100 quid.
Yeah, this is true. I suppose, yeah, it all depends on, your use case and what you're using the vehicle for, ultimately.
Yeah. But talking about Maxus, if you need the all-wheel drive one, you've got the e-Terron.
Yes.
Which is the all-wheel drive version, which has a bit more payload, I believe.
It's like £60,000-70,000.
Yeah. But that be said, are there any used ones, Tim? You're the man on used.
Well,
what's a used e-Terron go for?
Well, funnily enough, I was actually looking more recently, but just before that, I was actually in London this week, and I actually did see a MIFA 9, Maxus MIFA 9, next to the Tower of London, which I was quite surprised at.
Because they've got a MIFA 7 as well, which
is the smaller one. Used one in a lovely banana yellow. Hits at 25 plate, 723 miles, and it's 47,994.
Guts of a banana yellow, though, not.
It's kind of, it's a bit of a pale yellow.
Yeah, it's
the inside of a banana, not the outside.
It's a bit special.
Yeah.
It's not quite the charge heads yellow.
But talking of charge heads yellow,
you need to explain that for Spotify listeners as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, smiley yellow. On that point, from a charge heads point of view, thanks everyone who managed to make it to the charge heads meet. I will be doing a video on that showing the event. It was absolutely hammering it down in the morning, and I wasn't expecting more than just myself, to be honest, because it was pretty off. Other than these lovely chaps who joined me there, but no, we had a really good turnout. We had sort of 28 odd cars. I might have missed a couple, but it was pretty good. And although they segregated us in a car park, like cornered off, like do not go that way. But no, we had quite a few people come down and find out what the hell was going on in the corner. So yeah, thanks everyone who popped down. And I'm pretty sure we're going to do another meet at Santa Pod soon on the 21st of March. I think that's the date I'm going for. But I think a lot of people are a bit bored of very cold EV meets, so I think we're going to wait for the next one until it's definitely warmed up. Yeah, I
You
think
can't precondition a car park, unfortunately.
no, no, indeed. Yeah, it's the 21st. We're going for that for Santa Pod if anyone fancies it.
You need an indoor one.
Well,
In Wales, you definitely need an indoor one because it would be wet.
well, you know, on the focus of balance, petrol hedonism. So they have this petrol hedonism underground car show. So they actually do it in a multi-story car park, which is actually a really, really good idea. Gives off sort of Tokyo Drift vibes.
Will they let us in though? With obviously the weight of our cars.
You're absolutely
and
right.
The fact
flammability.
but the flammability, not like petrol cars.
They'll keep us at the bottom, and they'll probably hose us down. Probably do some form of heat visual on our car to make sure it's not just about to.
Or maybe
Yeah,
they just fill it with foam in advance, just in case.
Probably, yeah, call it a phone party then. Yeah, or maybe we'll have to find out where we can do that. Definitely not my local Wellingborough one because it's one of those where you curb an alloy in every wheel. But I suppose we better jump into the comments again. Thanks everyone for being patient with us. So where do we get to? So commuter branch line. I haven't paid VED since 2013. I'm not looking to renew my Tesla Model 3 when it comes around. What are you going to do then?
So I mean, you're just going to drive with no road tax?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure my TVR I will be able to get away with no tax because it's a historic vehicle. But I'm not sure. I will have to do an MOT because it'll be modified. And anyone who hasn't seen the latest video, we've got the wheels turning again. Well, there does seem to be a bit of a noise from the gearbox, and we're not sure if that's I'm not sure if that is actually going to be an issue or not. But go and check out the short video on the YouTube because it's on there with where you can see the rear wheels from inside the car, which is highly amusing.
So what's a TVR if it's not making strange noises?
This is true, and you know, I did want it to sound. So if it sounds like the bottom end is knocking wherever I go, then you know maybe I've absolutely nailed it. The TVR noise. So Dean's put in easy chargers can load manage up to 3 EV chargers on a single phase circuit. Dean, are you sponsored by Easy Chargers? Because we could do some sponsorship ourselves. Dean, the wet belt will snap at 40k too. Yeah.
This is why you need some apps like Ford Pro, which tell you the life of the oil percentage in real time. I mean, and this is the thing, going back to data again, is the fact that you know diesel vehicles have this stuff, and I've been playing with Ford Pro, and the amount of detail you get, which obviously you can pay to access it as part of the telematics package, but the manufacturer's been getting that data anyway. So they know, you know, you can talk, a manufacturer can probably, Ford, for example, will know for the last few years, will know the issues when their wet belts went on every one of those vehicles because they'll know from the telematics unit that's built into it.
Wow. Yeah, not ideal. What's the next one? Here we go. I'm waiting on my Cybertruck.
Could be waiting a while.
Well, I know that he did a special price, didn't he, for a little while? Which is I don't know if that was because of I think it was price of batteries or something like that, or maybe they're getting rid of the older style batteries because they've got these new bigger. I want to say, was it 4810 batteries? I forget the number now. They're these big batteries which have a they're more energy dense and great longevity. I forget the name of it now.
For the UK though, you're gonna have to be waiting for it to shrink a bit, surely, because I don't think it'll ever and be less pointy, because I don't know if it'll ever get approved in its current form in the UK. I don't think
it doesn't fit into that category. Although if that category, if you sold it as a car over here, then it would work. But it won't work over here as a commercial vehicle.
Can it work as a car because of the weight though? Because it's quite heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there a weight limit on cars?
3.5 tons, because it's not based. I mean, the gross weight thing on those is well over 4 tons. Well over 4 tons. So yeah, I mean that's
a truck, not a car, isn't it? So would they have to sell it as a truck, as in a proper truck? So then you'd have to be tacoed and everything.
Doesn't this is also the case with things like horse boxes and other bits and pieces where they're not commercial vehicles. They're private. They fall under a different category.
Yeah, so would it come under like a camper van? I guess is
like tachographs and things like that.
So to drive it, you'd have to have a horse in the rear bed wherever you go.
Yeah. If you sold it as a
a bit
commercial
tight.
vehicle, you'd have to have
It would give it some-
you'd have to have a tachograph in it because it's that heavy.
Well,
We give it some more horsepower.
Hey. So yeah, the Tesla batteries, it was the structural 4680 cells, which 20 to 25% weight reduction, which is obviously a positive. And yeah, it's a new chemistry with it's basically better in many ways. There's lots of videos out there about them, funnily enough. Careful now, you'll need a very strong multi-story car park in case they collapse the place. Exactly.
Ground floor only for us then, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, my sausage fingers strike again. I'm not looking forward to paying VED after so many free years. Next one. Yeah. Do you think the government will reverse the 3p per mile EV vehicle tax in 2027?
It's going to be very close to a pre-election period, isn't it?
This comes under the surveillance thing again, doesn't it? Because I don't see how they're going to do it. Any of the proposals they've put forward at the moment are completely unworkable.
MOT.
Yeah, but for the first 3 years, you'll have a load of cars that'll have to
MOT every year.
Yeah. Maybe. Well,
or
an HGV, they have to have an MOT every year.
Or the other option is they only do it on cars after 3 years old. So as long as I keep buying cars that are not 3 years old, it's fine. Sure, that's
As long as you keep encouraging a leasing company to buy a car.
Oh yeah, well,
you borrow it off them.
Yeah, for 3 years.
There we go. Well, funnily enough, talking about used cars, I like to think that I'm a bit better from buying the used ones, keep running them into the ground. After the video I put out last week about battery longevity, and Lucky's now done 233,000 miles. There's a few comments in there which I thought was quite useful, where it was suggesting actually not charging it to 80% all the time, charging up to 60% or 55%, when it's stationary, to minimize resistance, to increase the longevity of your battery, and only charge it up to 80% or 100 when you're going on a long drive. So I'm going to start doing that because I need all the help I can get when it comes to battery degradation and battery health. Interested to see what people's thoughts are. What's the next one?
I don't think that the 3p tax will come in the current form, though, to ask the question.
Okay.
I think they'll have to find a better way of doing it.
Another question then. What about reform, or is it reuse, recycle?
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Hang on.
Yeah.
There's another but do you think that a government that isn't Labour, not the Green, or let's just say, what about another government? Do you think that they would get rid of that to help votes?
I don't know. It's difficult to say. You could
keep it.
if they're very, if they're a very anti-environment one, they could really punish EVs and use EVs to reduce.
Worth
up to 6p.
Petrochemicals,
of course, by 2027, it will have been mandatory to have smart chargers for every new installation for about 5 years by that point. So a lot of new installations and a lot of additional drivers coming to market will have smart chargers at home. Potentially that could be used as some form of, but I mean that's just going to mean that people use 3-pin sockets instead to get around it, which isn't a good thing either. There's no simple way of logging how much you use and the wear and tear and the other bits and pieces that puts on the road.
Unless they go down the telematics route.
This is
just too much. To me, the lack of investment in infrastructure, the lack of kind of going, we're going to put black boxes in every car. There's no commitment. It's a very kind of, to me, it feels like a policy where it's very much kind of like, oh, we could do this, but we haven't actually really got to commit to doing anything other than saying that people have to go and give this information away freely.
How about stop taxing us on absolutely everything?
I mean, the other thing with that pence per mile, is it going to be inadvertently punish fleets? Because fleets will generally have telematics, because it's kind of a standard across the industry. You want to know what your vehicles are doing, because as an industry, you've got to do a lot of carbon reporting then for all the different scope emissions. So would they take that data from that? Is it going to unfairly punish fleets who are already gathering that data?
Do you get reimbursed for it at the end of the year as well? You have to predict how many miles you're going to do. I mean, from a perspective of operating a fleet, going, well, we've got, several hundred vehicles on fleet, and they're all going to be off doing this. We estimate they'll do, 12, 15,000 miles a year, and they all come in under mileage or over mileage. You then end up with this kind of massive bill or reimbursement thing at the end of the. It's just it's an unworkable.
Well, you think about like that for me. So I've just returned my Ioniq 5 after a 4-year lease. I picked, because I thought I was going to do a lot of mileage, I picked to do that on 12,000 a year. It went back after 4 years on 36,000. I can't see the leasing company in that situation saying, "Oh, here we go, have 12,000 miles worth of," because how would they know what years that was in? And you're on, then you're not going to let you. Is that system going to allow you to claim back for multiple years? Or you don't know.
Well, the other thing that's worth remembering is that there's a backlog at garages, MOT stations, and all sorts at the moment. If you then burdening MOT stations with having to log all of this stuff, you're just going to create an enormous bottleneck.
Yeah, because I know when I book in MOTs now, you're pretty much having to book it in a month before to get it by the deadline, not to preserve your deadline, you're just to actually get it in there.
And rental fleets. I mean, how the hell do you do that as a rental fleet? How the hell do you predict how many miles your fleet, your renter car is going to do within the course of a year?
And how do you
accurately?
And how do you charge someone
that out to? Yeah, you'd have to add it as a per mile. I just don't see it. We've gone off a little bit. This is it fits into the tracking thing quite well, but I don't know how on earth they're going to manage it.
How do France do it? They've got tolls everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So do they have a tax on vehicles? Like, because
the tolls are to allow you to use the best routes through France, aren't they? Mostly.
Do they have a separate road tax?
Yeah. Well, do they have
certain city? You have a city like Paris has one you pay to go for, doesn't it?
Maybe they need to just.
And you've got vignettes in some countries, haven't you, which is like road tax, where you go there as a tourist and you have to pay.
Well, maybe that's the way that it'll end up going instead. Is that you put infrastructure in where you're reading number plates and you're kind of taxing people for using the long haul roads like the motorways and stuff, and you just end up with everyone going off onto the A roads on the side of it. Whatever you do to it, people will find a way around it, or it'll end up causing some kind of burden.
You think our roads are in bad enough condition as it is? If you start forcing everyone onto road, what's going to do is it's going to shift the burden of repairing them from the trunk road agencies to local authorities, which can't afford to do it as it is.
Yeah. It just definitely needs to be a change, and I think it was Kevin that highlighted a few episodes ago the fact that actually it's not, the 3 pence per mile. It's not. It doesn't depend on what type of car you've got, like the road fund. Road fund license, the road tax. It depended on the CO2 emission, or it depended on the size of engine. There's nothing to do with that on electric vehicles. Bear in mind, you've got a Volkswagen e-up that does 5 miles per kilowatt hour, and it weighs not a lot compared to, and I'm going to pick on it because I love picking on it, an Audi e-tron, which is a bit of a breeze block, and it's 2 miles per kilowatt at best.
And then you think, taking it to the level of cars you buy, the sort of the older used cars, someone will be buying. If someone buys a cheap runaround, they want it because they want to save money and pay less per mile. If you go out and buy yourself an old V8 Range Rover, you're aware it's going to cost you a lot per mile in fuel. Whereas there's going to be no differential between it. Okay, it'll be slightly less efficient, but the differentials between EVs in miles per kilowatt hour is not huge. I've taken an Ioniq 9 out and it maybe gets at the worst 2 miles per kilowatt worse than a Hyundai Insta, and you're thinking there's not a huge differential on that, whereas in fueled cars there is. If you've got a big V8,
in percentage terms, I guess, there's a big chunk. I mean, that's the issue. Is none of the government stuff deals with that. Again, I mean, if you're going, I keep going off on a fleet tangent with this, but you've now got public and at home charging rates on per mile rates to reclaim the cost of energy that you use. You've got two completely separate rates, but neither of those are, like petrol or diesel vehicles, wherein they've got, different rates based on engine size that get adjusted every quarter. You've just got a flat rate which covers you whether you're driving your e-tron or your e-up.
Dare I say it? Should we try and use intelligence with this? And by intelligence, I mean artificial intelligence. maybe we should put it in ChatGPT, put it in Grok. Find out, what to put in it. And actually, on that, Matt, let's just put a pause on that. I'm really interested to know who might have a Tesla and have Grok on their car now, and whether they enjoy it or whether they don't enjoy it. So please pop in your comments if that's the case.
And in the meantime, we should probably try and catch up on
comments. My one that gets delivered next week will have Grok on it then.
It will.
So Liz says, the UK government data spying reminds me of how people talk about Chinese EVs. Do you remember the banning of GCHQ and MI5 government staff having Huawei phones and Chinese EVs in case of spying?
I believe it's still the case that certain brands aren't allowed on UK military bases of cars.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So not just EVs, but any cars. You've got to remember that all cars have two-way communications now.
They have to by law, yeah.
Yeah, go through the comments, and I'm going to ask Grok because it's just.
Keith Branchline says, "Is it a coincidence that a few weeks after Tesla finally perfects the manufacturing of the 4680 dry coating process, Tesla announced a cheaper price for Cybertruck. 4680 V3 cells now most powerful and cheap. Who knows?" Lewis says, "I had a look at mileage blockers the other day. It was 400 quid for one. Looks like you can block all miles to reduce to 10 to 20 or 50% the actual miles done. Some claim they block other data sources too." This is the thing. If you put any technology in that's trying to monitor what people are actually driving, so I give it days, weeks before someone finds a way of doing it in a kind of a palatable way, kind of a way that's that's not easy to detect.
The other thing as well is with older cars with that monitoring thing. Look at original Renault Zoe's, Nissan Leaf. They've sunset the data network they use because they used to use 3G SIMs, and they've sunset the mobile network. So what happens if you sunset a mobile network? Do you have to then scrap those cars, or how? Because there is no at the moment for those older Nissan Leaf users and Zoe users. There's no way to retrofit a different SIM technology to it.
This could be the future. Everyone driving Nissan Leafs to get away from the tax.
Rachel Reeves, Dean says, Rachel Reeves clearly hasn't thought it through. Totally embarrassing. This is the EVED. There should be a clear incentive to drive EVs rather than combustion. Bringing paper mile too early will hamper this. I agree. I think it's a premature move. I understand the thinking behind it, but I mean it's the heads and hearts things. I mean, if you were going at it completely from a head point of view, the way that you do it is to just whack up the rates. Put as EVs grow to push them more. And I'm not advocating this. I'm just saying that the most obvious way to do it, an unpopular but obvious way to do it, would be for cars, not for LCVs, to put up all the rates for fuel burning vehicles and leave EVs flat, and then recoup the costs by basically billing petrol and diesel vehicles off the road. And again, like I said, I'm not advocating for it. It'd be a massively unpopular policy. But
as we've said as well, though, in the past on the discussions on this, the fairest way is to mimic what you do with fuel duty and have a per pence per kilowatt hour, because then it won't penalise efficient. And it might do the thing that we've talked about loads of times on here, is actually if you look at EVs over the years, within reason, pretty much the efficiency has stayed fairly static. And it's not because EVs haven't got more efficient, it's they've got much bigger. So you're talking that, yes, okay, an EV9 is now as efficient as the early Nissan Leafs, but it's only that because the vehicle's got more efficient, but the vehicle is now much bigger, and you've got, little things like Instas and Leap Motor T0 fleets are quite efficient, but are they're probably not much more efficient than the original E-Up, because electric motor technology is quite efficient in the beginning, so it's very hard to get those gains unless you can massively reduce the weight or adjust the aero massively, because it's not the high 90s already.
The other thing is it's lumping all of these vehicles together under a single 3p per mile tax. I mean, I think there's going to have to come a point where, as EVs become the de facto kind of type of vehicle, I mean, we're talking long term here, there has to be some recognition of efficiency within those vehicles. There has to be. And if not just efficiency, then also the carbon footprint of the energy that you're putting into it. So I've recently got an Ohmie charger at home, and it tells me the exact carbon footprint of the energy that I put into the vehicle.
What, from the grid at that point?
From the grid at that point.
That's brilliant.
Which is really, really cool. So I've been kind of looking at it, and it's like some of the chargers have been like completely zero carbon on it, and others have been quite bad. In terms of, I don't know, bad, everything's relative, right? But some have been much higher, some have been have been none. And it's interesting seeing how much that varies. But again, but as you get more, we're talking about data all the way through this. It's like as you get all this data, you should be able to know how efficient the vehicles are, and you should be able to know how much energy they're using and where that energy is coming from. And then if the goal really is to decarbonize, and you're then able to kind of really get a full picture of the carbon footprint of that vehicle in use, aren't you?
Yeah, and you think about the efficiency thing. I mean, I've been driving long commutes for 20 odd years, and I've always said that basically my cars over the years have stayed about the same efficiency, but been more. So I started off with a Corsa diesel, which would do about 60 to the gallon, and the last diesel car I had was a 180 brake horsepower Leon FR, which did slightly more efficiency than that Corsa. But there's not been the push with that on EVs. It's all about being focused on range, and range has been achieved by bigger and bigger batteries. And we've talked about in one of the podcasts, like as nice the EV9 or the Ioniq 9 is, the Ioniq 9's got a 110 kilowatt hour battery pack in. And you think actually even on a 7 kilowatt charger at home, that starts to become a limitation, because that's still over 10 hours to charge it.
Yeah. Well, what's the new premium brand for BYD? Denza. So the new Denza, which has got the best EV range, although it's not the WLTP one, it's the Chinese version of 1,030 kilometers. It's got a battery size of 128 kilowatt hours.
So let's do 128. Did you say?
Yeah, 128.
Divide by 7. So that would be on a home charger, 18 hours to charge.
Wow.
So that's from empty. So it's starting to be either become a requirement you have 3-phase charging at home, or 18 hours is a long time.
I'm sorry I don't know where the drum is, but to beat the drum of Tesla, focus on efficiency, not going necessarily massive battery, and, keeping it between that 20 and 80, for argument's sake, is probably around about the 50 kilowatt hours.
More efficient EVs are good for the whole thing. These less electricity from the grid, they put less wear and tear on the roads, less wear and tear on tyres and brakes and suspension and all the other bits and pieces that you get wear and tear with. And also a lower, manufacturing footprint too, because you don't need such larger batteries. I think going at it with, taking a sledgehammer to the problem. It's kind of that can't last forever.
And I think as well, the focus is still on performance and power. There are no slow EVs, but I'm in a Genesis GV60 this week, the performance one. Does it need 490 PS in boost mode to actually there? And I mean, I think
not what you're driving.
I mean, it's interesting. Me and Alex test drove one of the new Changang, the Deepal 07, and that actually I thought bucked the trend by having a more deliberately and engineered more petrol car acceleration response, and that it wasn't slow, but it wasn't that traditional wanting to smoke the tires off the lights type feel. It was a progressive, powerful enough, and I think more brands maybe need to focus on that to gain more efficiency.
Polestar and Volvo stuff was all right for that. The throttle responses I always found in the Polestar and Volvo stuff was always quite well metered out. The MX-30 is the other one. The throttle response of the MX-30, as you might expect from Mazda, it's not a car that you'll hear huge amounts of praise from it.
Only me.
So you've got a bit of a.
I've got a bit
of a soft spot for
it.
Yeah. But yeah, one of the things they set up quite nicely in that was that the throttle response was really quite nice. It was kind of really quite progressive.
I think that could be like the first car for my daughter in 3 years' time, because I know that she's not going to be able to get too far.
Yeah.
It's a lovely looking vehicle, and it won't be too expensive because no one wants them.
You're not going to get a Leaf though that can only do about 12 miles range by then. Yeah, just to make sure you can't go that far.
That's not a bad shout actually. But yeah, no. So I whacked it in Grok, and it was saying, look, come away from the current version and go down the route of pay per mile, and then adjust it on a weight adjusted road usage charge.
Wow.
So replace fuel duty entirely over 5 to 10 years with a single pay per mile charge that applies to every registered car and van in the UK collected cheaply and privately via an existing MOT system. I mean, yeah, I think you probably need to feed more stuff into it to get a slightly better answer, if I'm being honest.
Can you imagine if you did it based on kind of well-to-wheel carbon emissions? If you taxed every vehicle on the road by well-to-wheel carbon emissions, it would be astronomically
But would that-
expensive to run anything with a combustion engine.
But would that
eventually.
change if I'm buying a used car with 200,000 miles compared to Kevin buying the same car brand new? I think it should. Well,
Is
you know,
this-
You're getting that, yeah, but you're
is this
getting
because-
that discount baked into the price that you pay for it, I guess.
Is this just because my Model 3 is going to come with grok and yours doesn't support it?
I don't need grok. I've got.
And you've just used it now.
I've got organic intelligence. I'll have you know, Kev. I think we better leave it there. Have we finished gone through all the comments?
quite, yeah.
Let's go through all the comments and then let's wrap it up. So we've got Dean. What if you drive abroad? You'll be paying per mile tax. You'll be paying road tolls in France. It just won't work. Yeah, that comes up a lot. Good point, Dean.
And in some countries, like, is it where do you buy a vignette for? Switzerland, you'll be paying for their road tax as well. So you'll be taxed on their
4680 V3 cells, when production scaled, are said to be the most powerful lithium battery at the lowest price anywhere. USA made and tariff-free cells using USA mined lithium, $50 per kilowatt hour or less targeted. And arguably, I haven't read the recent video about the Donut Media solid state stuff, but arguably, if you've got a cheap cell which has got the power density, then that's obviously going to be
donut stuff. They
winner.
have started publishing tests by independents on it. So yeah, I think it may well be real.
I need to read into it a bit more. And I think a key thing, which I was going to mention earlier, I did share it on the Facebook, Chargehead's Facebook. Jamie Sands, who works for Welsh's Group, are talking about in transport, not just vans and trucks delivering goods, but also drones. I think that's going to be a massive part of what's going to happen in the future from a transport point of view. What's the next one there, Alex? Yes, love it.
We missed this obviously from like 10 minutes ago. So
Yeah, Model 3 performance. Yeah, I love it too. Love grok. Like having someone that has a PhD and everything to chat to. Also, it's been teaching me French. That's brilliant. Love that, Chris. Yeah, I have mine in unhinged on my wife's and she turned it off. She's a bit upset. Hey, Leon, how you doing, mate? Even the oil course, Best Bar Anonymous accepted that years ago. If they want to, they will use it. In the meantime, they're a bargain. Absolutely. Leon, good to hear from you, mate. Commuter branch line, WLTP. We used to joke that it stood for would like to pretend. You can use that one too. Yes, I think I like to say that Kev laughs in the face of WLTP, whereas I probably cower in the corner.
I'm almost confident enough to say I laugh in the face of CLTP. But I mean, that's because that tends to be a little bit more generous from the stats.
If only the MX-30 had a little more range. It looked very well built. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a nice enough car.
Do they sell the range extender one? Did they sell the range extender one yet? Does it still exist?
Yeah, they halved the battery range on it. Because I kind of hope they do the range extender one as 120 odd miles of EV range and then the range extender.
But they didn't.
But instead they halved. They didn't quite halve it, but they knocked the range down massively and then added the range extender.
So it wasn't like a bigger i3.
That's what I was kind of hoping it might be. But yeah.
So Chris has popped in again. No way. Want the instant talk for the traffic light GP. Tesla's the best for that, in my opinion. You can drive smoothly if you want to. Yeah, I think it's about choice, right? Everybody wants something different, but I would say, to echo what we were saying earlier, there's not enough efficient electric vehicles. There could be a lot more.
Yeah, I think as well, driver training is something that's neglected because a lot of people still learn in a manual and then jump in an EV potentially. I think there almost needs to be some sort of education around how you drive an EV normally.
Yeah, PWNE made a good point. If you live in a country in political turmoil, driving your spy car isn't a good thing, nor your spy Alexa, spy doorbell, spy phone, etc.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Different type of tracking than for taxis, but that's where we're at. No, absolutely. No worries. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. And yeah, go and check out the other videos that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, thanks to Kev, thanks to Alex, and thanks to everyone to make what YEV is today, which is becoming good fun podcast. So we will see everyone next week.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Need to end the stream though, mate.
I know. I'm trying to think of this one.
So me and Kev will start doing a theme